Welcome to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast with Robert Glasscock. We have a wonderful listener question today, and if you would like to leave a question like this, we don't do our individual chart questions. That's for readings, but if you have a general question like this, go to the funastrology.com website and click that orange button up in the upper left, and you can ask a great question like Ellie did here.
Hello, Robert and Thomas. Thanks for taking my question. So for many years, I've been using free astrology software online. I'm ready to make the leap and purchase a real astrology software package. I've taken a look at them. They look fabulous, but how do you select one from the other? Also, would you recommend a cloud-based solution versus something that would get installed on the laptop? So any guidance you can provide? What are your favorite packages? Which ones do you use? I'd really like to get all my chart data entered so I can do some analysis, looking at, all of my contacts' Venus placements, for example, things like that. Robert, I am also a skeptic. I am still trying to disprove astrology, and I haven't been able to, so this will advance my efforts all the more. So thank you very much.
Ellie, isn't that great? Robert, have you given up trying to disprove it yet? Or are you still at
it? No, I have not. And I love Ellie's remark. That's heaven.
That is
to
great.
Hear. I think, look, I've got Mercury and Jupiter together in Virgo in my 9th house. And Jupiter happens to square my birth Uranus in Gemini. So no, I'm a skeptic about everything. And I love it about it. I tried to keep it down and tone it down a little bit to be acceptable in polite society.
Well,
but no, and of course, here I am 57 years later. It's no, it's not a matter of proving it doesn't work. I know how it works and why it works, certainly far more than I did when I began. But I love Ellie's remark because I still do. I still have sometimes I can't believe how it works. And the implications of that, you and I have talked about this. A letter I got from a client whose father had just had a stroke and so on back. I never met the guy, never met the woman was a mother of one of my students. And she wrote me in the middle of the night asking a question about this father and her siblings and the medical treatment he was getting and so on. And I looked at the chart, Thomas, and it clearly said that he would likely die in between 3 and 4 days. And sure enough, he did. Now, the fact that a horoscope, a snapshot of space-time from one particular location, which I use mine because it's between my ears where the understanding of the horoscope takes place, can tell the likelihood of a death of a total stranger 2,000 miles away and be correct. About a week later, I got a letter from my student, and she said, well, Granddad died just as you said 3.5 days after my mom wrote. And she said, how you did that without his birth horoscope, I will never know. But you were beyond accurate. Well, it's not me, it's the chart. Just read it. So the implication of that still staggers me, Ellie, because what it's saying is that somehow you and I and Thomas and the solar system are part of the same thing. We're synchronous with that. That's staggering.
It really, truly is. It's amazing. Well, since it's so darned accurate, we might as well get some good software and learn how to read it. So we're taking care of the learning part here. Let's have a little software conversation. I have some thoughts I'm going to kick in on this too, because I'm kind of a techie. So why don't you start? What do you use and why? And then we'll fill in some gaps here and some edges for Ellie.
Well, I use Kepler software, and I think you use the Big Brother series. They're the same company.
Oh, I have about 5.
5 of them.
That's fine. Ellie, we can take care of you on this one.
And the very first astrology program I got, Thomas, was back in the 70s, written by a guy named Mark Pottinger. He was Zipra Dobbins' son. And it was written in CPM. You're a techie.
I was going to say, what in the world did you run it on?
CPM. I ran it.
Wow.
I got my first computer, and he had the only program out there. I got my first computer in 1981. I was so proud of it. It was a K Pro. It was a portable. It weighed 26 pounds. So I'm lugging this portable. I mean, you could have put, a chopped up body in this thing. It was huge.
Oh my.
And all it ran was CPM. Had a little,
Wow.
I think it was a 9-inch monitor, something green screen. And Mark wrote this program, which was incredibly accurate. But of course, today we have these incredible programs that do, and they all offer, I found, pretty much the same capacities. They will do anything that you want to do, including analyses and all sorts of different kinds of analyses. But I was, for a while, I used Astrodienst or astro.com. They have a free cloud-based web-based service, which is terrific, but it can't go into the depth, and it doesn't give you the customization powers that your own program does. And what I have found over the years, Thomas, even though I'm a skeptic, I'm very experimentative. So I will try new things as they come along and see if they make my readings better or if they improve my understanding of astrology. If they don't give me something that I'm not already getting elsewhere, then I won't use them. Why? It's just unnecessary. So you refine your techniques down with experience, I think, over the years. So any of these programs, and I'm also look, I got Mercury and Jupiter in Virgo. I like a bargain. Okay. So don't forget the price factor. So when I weigh the value versus the cost, that's part of my decision too. And these things vary between, I guess, around $300 to maybe $600. I don't know. Is that?
I think that would be a good range.
Yeah.
Actually, Janus is in the 200s, I think, still. And Janus is a great program. Now you're on Windows, and that's one of the first things I was going to mention is you have to decide if you're Windows or Mac. And then she asked about cloud-based, and I'll tell you why I would not recommend cloud-based is because if you have been in Robert Glasscock's Solar Arc Practicum class on the political Solar Arc Practicum class, then you know that possible internet outages in the future could affect your ability to get onto that chart. So I would want my data on something that I could call up even if we were having an outage of some sort. So that was one that would right there strike a cloud-based system off for me. Now, what are some of the key features that you look for? And I know most of these all have the same things built in. So we're going to make a list here of the top programs. Are there any particular features that you just absolutely must have in a system?
Yes, and I would like to second your opinion about cloud-based systems for exactly that reason. I have everything on a hard drive, a small, wonderful, powerful hard drive that my tech support guy here told me to get, and it's actually formatted for Macs. It's a passport.
Ah, okay, yeah.
But he said it's going to say it's formatted for Macs. Don't worry about it. Get it, and I'll reformat it for PC, which he did. So it is such a small but really packed full of storage. So that's what I use. Again, the things I must have is the ability to do solar arcs. I don't use progressions anymore and haven't for decades. So I don't need progressions, but somebody else does. I use solar arcs and converse solar arcs, so it has to be able to do that. And if I want, for example, to print out a list of transits or a list of solar arcs, the program will do that too by month and day of exact. And you can customize all this. I want to know the exact day, the day of exactness. Some programs you want to know when it first comes into orb. They can do that as well. So I use solar arcs. I use transits. I use bi-wheels and tri-wheels. So, for example, I will put the transits around a person's natal chart. So you need the capacity to show a bi-wheel. And I use tri-wheels with solar arcs. So I have the natal chart in the center, and around that I have the solar arcs. And then around that I have the converse solar arcs. And then I can print out a list of when these solar arcs are exact. as far ahead as I want, 1 year, 10 years, whatever. It depends on what you use, but I think all of them have the capacity to expand your techniques as well, because as you read the help menus, and they all involve a learning curve. Let's face it, it's not overwhelming, but it's there. And the more you use it, of course, the more you can, the more familiar with it you get. So I don't know. How do you feel about these various programs?
Well, I'm a techie junkie, so I have a bunch of them. Now, the one that you have, we'll just start there, is Kepler, which is part of David Cochran's creation. David is a guy who is in his 70s too. I think he's approaching his mid-70s, so he's maybe a few years behind you, Robert. And just a brilliant programmer and a wonderful astrologer based down in Gainesville, Florida. But I saw that they were going to start traveling and be somewhere else, back west, I believe. Maybe he was going to the Pacific Northwest. But just a great guy, too, and has been available to his subscribers and clients through a YouTube channel. And they have a Facebook. Both he and his wife, Faye, have a Facebook group. So there's just a lot of interaction with David. And he has built some incredible tools that have stood the test of time over the years. Sirius 3.0 is the top dog. That's every feature. The one that Robert has and the one that Kepler College uses a lot is the Kepler version. It has nothing to do with Kepler College except they like it and they recommend it. And I think, let's see, and I think there might be one other version, one other more intro version, but those two will get you to exactly where Robert is talking about, and they are feature-packed. And chances are if you had Sirius and you paid the other about $200 or $300, it would be unlikely that you would use all of the features that are the additional features. David has gotten into research. So he's taking a scientific approach to astrology. So there are some research features that I think are built into the Sirius side that don't show up in the Kepler side. If you're never going to go there, then that would be a consideration that you wouldn't necessarily want. But what I would do is just go to astrosoftware.com, and that will give you the contact information for either David or Faye. They have a really good support team there too as well that would probably take your call. So that would be the way, and you could compare the different features. Now, another program that is like so prolific out there that everybody uses is SolarFire. SolarFire is Australian designed by an amazing team of people. And I think of probably all of the, say, modern astrologers. If you went to NORWAC or one of these other astrology conferences, chances are the preponderance of the group is going to be using SolarFire. And it's a Windows-based program that you just can't go wrong with. Now, one of the things I would advise is whatever software program you get, there is going to be a learning curve. So just bear with that, and you're going to have to learn muscle memory of where all the buttons are and how to get through the menus and where is that again and how do I do converse solar arcs, where do I find that? So that's just a learning curve that you're going to have to get through and give it the time. But that aside, both of these, Kepler, Sirius, SolarFire, are the robust programs that have everything that we talk about on here, and they are truly amazing tools. Now, another one that I love is Janus 5.3 now, I believe, but the Janus 5 program. And I'll tell you, Robert, I know that Kepler and Sirius have calendars, and I look at calendars for my market trading, but Janus scoops them on that one. So, this is the thing is there are features that each one is going to have, the nuanced little features that each one is going to have that another one doesn't. But Janus stands very tall in the space, and the group of astrologers that built it from New Zealand are absolutely phenomenal astrologers, and they're kind of like dealing with the Roberts of the world, that you're dealing with people that have been doing astrology for not years but decades. So you're buying into that, and it's feature robust and it's cheaper than any of the other programs that we've mentioned so far. Now, the other one that I would consider if you're on a Mac, and this is only for the Mac, and if you are on a Mac, this is really about your only viable great choice, is a program called Astro Gold. It is made for the Mac by the same people who make SolarFire, but it is a completely different build. So don't think that you're getting the Windows version adapted to the Mac. You are not. It's a standalone version. Robert, there's one thing that would be a deal killer for you on Astro Gold. It does not have a button to push to get a Converse Solar Arc chart, and that's a real problem.
Wow.
I have asked them feature request for that multiple times, and it still isn't in there. So I hope that at some point they do. But the deal about Converse Solar Arcs is you can look at the solar arcs moving forward and backward, and you interpret them equally. Well, I have to go to the Windows programs to get that one feature. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it would be for me now in Kepler and in Sirius 2, you can tick off if you're doing solar arcs, you can tick off solar arcs and converse solar arcs, and you can then set those as defaults. So once you've gotten through the learning curves and the menus and so on, you can begin to customize, I mean, everything. How the wheel prints, how large it is, whether it includes an aspectarian on the same page, and on and on and on. The color of the text, everything. You can do black and white charts, you can do color charts, artistic charts, you got all that. But the customization makes it very easy. So now I can set up everything that I need. What I do use, Thomas, in every reading, I do a consultation chart, which is a combination of the natal chart plus a chart for the time that we start the consultation. That's one. Then I do a transiting chart around the natal. Then I do a tri-wheel with the solar arcs. Then I do a listing of just in text of the solar arcs and when they're exact, because each solar arc is only in effect for 1 year in your life. You've never had them before, you'll never have them again. So when you list them exactly, then mentally you can take an orb of maybe 6 months on either side of exactness. But and then I list midpoints, and then I will also list transits to the solar arc chart and transits to the converse solar arc chart, so you don't miss anything. That may take me 5 minutes to set up, and then I put them in a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm ready for the consultation.
Yeah. That's, and see, any of those Windows programs are going to have all of that. And the one that you would be deficient with Astro Gold is Converse Solar Arcs, and I do miss that. Hopefully they'll get it built in soon. But right now we're in a waiting game. But when I do the Fun Astrology podcast, I do it from Astro Gold because I'm on a Mac. All of my production equipment, my broadcast stuff, and everything that I do is all Mac-based. I've been that way for years. So when I do the Fun Astrology podcast and looking at a chart, just anything like that, I'm on my Mac and I'm on Astro Gold. And I love it. I love the way that they've built it out. Most of the key features and most of the, I'd say, in-depth features of SolarFire are included on Astro Gold. And like I say, hopefully at some point I'm going to wake up one morning and there will be a button for Converse Solar Arcs, and I will be a very happy boy.
You know, something else, Thomas, just listening to you reminded me, I also use Astromaps. These are basically astrocartography, which was started by Jim Lewis back in the mid-70s, and he ultimately sold it. And that used to be a whole separate, it was mail order. You could write in for your Astromaps. It was very technical and for the time, very advanced. And now I think all major software programs for astrology include it. They call it something else. Kepler calls it Astromap. It's the same thing. But I do use that for locational astrology, especially people who are planning to move, whether it's within the United States or they're thinking about moving abroad somewhere. You can look and see what planetary lines they have in any location in one graphic. It's amazing, because before astrocartography, all you could do was talk to a client. Well, I'm thinking about moving to Jakarta. Okay, well, then you'd set up a chart for Jakarta. Well, how does that compare to if I move to Paris? And then you have to set up another chart for, well, this way it's all right there on the map.
Yeah, and I bought Sirius because of the maps.
Yes.
I wanted that feature, and that one is where David Cochran's bundle, Sirius or Kepler, stands out above the rest. I think they are far superior.
It's phenomenal, Thomas, because, for example, I just had a client that lives in Florida. She's thinking about moving somewhere else in Florida. Then she said, or just anywhere in the United States. Well, suddenly you can zoom in on a region and focus totally on one state if you want, or one region of the country, like the Southeast, Southwest, Northwest. So it's got a ton of flexibility built into it. It's not only versatile, but very useful.
Well, I've attended a couple of David Cochran events, not live, online, because it was during the COVID season, but and watched a number of his videos. He's a brilliant astrologer and a very good programmer. And he has added some things, some interpretive things, to the programs Kepler and Sirius 3.0. And one of the maps is one of the areas where he really shined. I mean, he has programmed some extra stuff. And realize this is David Cochran programming his interpretations into the software. But they're really, really good, and I think you would enjoy them.
You know, I had forgotten that feature, Thomas, because I don't use it. But one of the features in Kepler that I use, and I'm sure in Sirius too, when you are displaying a natal chart, you can hover over a planet, and boom, there pops up an interpretation. Now, you can turn that off if you want, that feature. But it's very possible with these programs to compile a printed reading for somebody based on these paragraphs. So even a beginner can turn out a professional reading. It's not the same thing as a personal one, but it's very valid and very useful for people who need that feature.
All of the software that we've mentioned today have that feature, and I sell one on the funastrology.com website, and it is from the Janus 5 software because I think theirs is the best. So see, you're going to get good, better, best, and you just have to pick the price. And obviously PC versus Mac, and then you have to just settle on what features and what price am I going to hone in on here. But you can't go wrong with any of the four we mentioned. If you are on a Windows machine, Janus, Kepler, Sirius 3.0, all top contenders.
I just want to say to Ellie, if Ellie, you ever disprove astrology, please email me. And I will send you 5 gold stars.
And
good for you.
You'll put the man just slam out of business in the later years of his life.
Somehow I'm skeptical of that, too.
I'm not going to wait around for that email or phone call, are you? Don't wait up. We'll see you in the morning. Oh, my. You know, it is an incredible craft. And, Robert, I got to say, tip of the hat to you, sir, because you have really brought it alive to so many people on here. And I know they're loving what you're putting out. So we're going to keep doing it. You guys get some great software so you can keep up with us, and we will keep the learning curve moving forward always on the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology podcast with Robert Glasscock. Ellie, thanks for a great question. We'll see you next time.